Around 1200 BCE, an unidentified naval force materialized in the eastern Mediterranean. Over a few short decades, they methodically burned the greatest empires of the ancient world to the ground, and then they vanished from the historical record. We know the Late Bronze Age was a highly interconnected era of trade and diplomacy that eventually collapsed under the weight of drought, famine, and earthquakes. But the final violent push that toppled these superpowers came from human hands. Evidence of this violence is preserved in the ruins. This is a clay cuneiform tablet pulled from the ashes of Ugarit, a wealthy port city in modern-day Syria that once connected the trade routes of the entire region. It contains a frantic final message from Ugarit's last king, Hammurabi. He writes, "My father, now enemy ships are coming, and they burn down my towns with fire. They have done unseemly things in the land." Hundreds of miles to the south, in Egypt, Pharaoh Ramesses III recorded his own encounter with these invaders. He commissioned massive stone reliefs at his mortuary temple, Medinet Habu, to document a global crisis. The Egyptian scribes claimed that this maritime coalition arrived from the islands in the midst of the sea and proved completely unstoppable on land. This was an unidentified force capable of wiping out the most heavily fortified, technologically advanced empires on Earth. They are known today as the Sea Peoples, and their origin remains one of the ancient world's most enduring questions. The timing and location of these destruction layers indicate a series of strategic, synchronized strikes. This wasn't the work of random pirates, but a coordinated movement across the Mediterranean. We can follow the devastation in the soil. Ugarit, a vital trade hub, was burned so thoroughly that its entire administrative system simply stopped existing. The attackers then hit the island of Al-Ashia, modern-day Cyprus. By ravaging this island, the invaders choked off the primary source of copper for the entire eastern Mediterranean, effectively paralyzing the bronze-based economy. In central Anatolia, the Hittite Empire faced the same fate. Despite their mastery of chariot warfare, their capital of Hattusa was sacked and abandoned, marking the end of Hittite imperial power. By 1175 BCE, the invading coalition reached the borders of Egypt, launching a massive assault by both land and sea. Pharaoh Ramesses III realized the enemy ships relied entirely on the wind. He lured them into the shallow Nile Delta, where they were trapped without oar power. Egyptian archers lined the banks, unleashing volleys that decimated the immobilized fleet. Egypt survived the battle, but the victory was Pyrrhic. The military and financial costs were so high that they permanently crippled Egypt's status as a world power. Tactical survival in Egypt couldn't save the wider system. The trade networks were too interconnected and fragile to survive the destruction of their northern partners. To understand who these people were, we have to look closely at how they were depicted by the Egyptians who fought them. The stone carvings highlight distinct visual markers. One group wears horned helmets, while others sport feathered headdresses. This diversity suggests a coalition of different cultures, rather than a single ethnicity. Modern historians have traced these styles to various regions, ranging from fleeing Mycenaean Greeks to displaced tribes in Anatolia. These were likely people fleeing their own collapsing societies in search of a new home. The Egyptian records give us names like the Peliset, Shurdan, and Luca, but these labels rarely appear in the records of other civilizations, leaving their specific homelands shrouded in uncertainty. The Sea Peoples appear to have been a desperate, motley crew of displaced factions banding together, lacking the central administration of a formal empire. We can track one specific group, the Peliset, to the coast of Canaan. There, they settled and established a distinct culture that would eventually be known in the Hebrew Bible as the Philistines. In 2019, researchers managed to sequence ancient DNA from a Philistine graveyard in Ashkelon, providing the first direct biological record of this population. The data shows a massive influx of Aegean DNA in the Levant at the end of the Bronze Age, a genetic signature of a large-scale migration. Within a few generations, that spike vanishes as the newcomers fully assimilated into the local population. This genetic record forces us to look closer at the Aegean carvings. Hidden among the warriors are ox-drawn carts carrying women and children. Families don't accompany a simple raid. Decades of severe drought and famine had destroyed agricultural systems across the Mediterranean, leaving these populations with a choice between starvation and migration. The Sea Peoples were a desperate symptom of the collapse. Starving refugees whose search for survival delivered the final blow to a dying world. But the Bronze Age wasn't the only time an advanced society vanished into the shadows. Next, we're looking at a civilization that disappeared without a trace of warfare: the lost cities of the Indus Valley.